Salutations, every pup, and welcome to Chapter 50 of the one they call Broccoli by Texiliaz. As always, the link to the fic is in the description below. And with that out of the way, let's jump on into it. Chapter 50, The Reveal. For real this time. Chapter summary. The cat is out of the bag. For real this time! Author's notes. Hello, everyone! First of all, I'm so sorry it's been so long. Life's been messy and mental health has been kicking my butt. Secondly, you all are amazing. So much love and care you've shown. I truly feel blessed. Thank you all so much for all the support. It has really helped me keep going. Now, without further ado, here we go. Another broccoli chapter. Trigger warning. Panic attacks, crying, dumbass Toshinori. P.S. Thank you, Stu, for beta reading this. You're awesome. Before we start, I just want to say, Texiliaz, what are the odds? Unplanned, Texiliaz happens to post Chapter 50 right when I reach Chapter 48 and 49. What are the odds? Unplanned. That happened. Anyway, this is going to be my first reaction to this chapter because I did not read it before recording. Let's get into it. Shota's point of view. Once the quirk affecting Shota had worn off, he had wasted no time in rushing to Izuku and Eri's side. Both kids were unconscious, and Izuku was still in his cat form. He must have tired himself out. Shota supposed even that hybrid form of his must have some sort of limit, since he had turned back into a cat. With a sigh, Shota lifted up the unconscious cat and cradled him to his chest, relief flooding him when he heard the little guy give slow and even breaths. "Sensei?" Aradaka asked nervously behind him. Shota turned around to face her, finding both her and Asui looking down at their unconscious classmates with a worried frown on their faces. Is that... Aradaka trailed off and didn't finish her sentence. But she didn't need to. Shota gave a nod, confirming her suspicions. "Let's give them some space, for now," Shota said, even as he cradled Broccoli close to his chest. He just couldn't bring himself to let him go. His students nodded in understanding and left Shota alone with the two kids. Paramedics soon arrived, and after explaining the situation regarding the cat, he went into an ambulance together with Eri, still having Broccoli safely resting in his arms. The kids seemed to thankfully be unharmed after the fight, as far as the paramedics could tell. Eri had a bunch of old injuries, but nothing life-threatening. Once they arrived at the hospital, Eri was whisked away to a private and more secured room, where they would look over her more thoroughly. Meanwhile, Shota and Broccoli were led to a room of their own, where a doctor looked over Shota's wounds. The doctor only gave Broccoli a brief look over before declaring that he wasn't a vet and that he seemed to be healthy enough. It pissed Shota off, and after a bit of arguing, the kid got his own bed and was hooked up to some IVs and machines, just to be sure he didn't suddenly get worse after overusing his quirk. After all, quirk exhaustion was no joke, and with a quirk like Izuku's, there was no telling what could happen. Not to mention how they still didn't know if there were any side effects of Eri using her quirk on him. After that was done with, the doctor left Shota and Broccoli alone. Shota had to face the fact that he needed to contact his husband. So, with a heavy heart, he dialed Toshinori and explained the situation, letting him know that the raid had been a success, but had left him and Izuku in the hospital. As one would expect, Toshinori rushed over as soon as possible. Shota had just finished checking up on the rest of his students and was on the way back to his and Izuku's room when he bumped into his distressed husband. "Shota!" Toshinori called out, rushing over to give Shota a hug. "Are you all right? What about the students? Are they—" "Everyone is fine, Toshi." Shota cut his rambling off before it could get any worse. "Kirishima, Asui, and Uraraka are all fine and recovering from only mild injuries. The one who got hurt the most was Sir Night-Eye, but he'll live," he explained to him calmly. "That's good," Toshinori sighed in relief. "And what about young Izuku? You didn't mention him. Here, Shoto paused, unsure how to explain the situation. He's fine, we think, he answered slowly, avoiding his husband's gaze. You think? Toshinori echoed, worry clear in his voice. It's a weird situation, Shota admitted with a grimace before shaking his head. Look, I think it will just be easier to show you, but I have to warn you, it is a lot to take in, he said, concerned for how his partner would take the news of their cat student. Show? You're scaring me. Toshinori chuckled nervously. Just show him to me. I just want to know that he is okay. And so, Shota led the way back to his and Izuku's room. As soon as they entered and Toshinori saw the small cat hooked up to all the machines, he froze. Shota could see the confusion in his eyes as he clearly recognized their little broccoli. After a moment of silence, the man suddenly inhaled sharply, only to sputter and cough. I don't understand, Toshinori asked, looking between Shota and their cat in clear confusion. That's Izuku. Shota sighed. I, guessed that much, but why is he... Was he hit by a quirk? He looks exactly like... That's also broccoli. Shota sighed deeper, before leading Toshinori to one of the chairs so he could sit down. The man looked ready to faint. After a brief moment of debating, Shota sat down on one of the other chairs, moving it closer to his husband so he could be at his side. The man looked completely lost, and Shota wasn't sure what to say at that moment. So instead, he sat quietly and rubbed circles into his husband's back, as he waited for the news to sink in. He wasn't sure how long they sat there, until Toshinori finally decided to move again. The man reached out a trembling hand towards Broccoli, a small frown on his face as he hesitated. But then, he seemed to steel himself, and he carefully cradled his fingers through the green fur, earning a purr from the sleeping form. At the sound of him purring, Toshinori gave a watery smile. Meanwhile, Shota blinked in surprise at the sight of his husband smiling. This explains so much, Toshinori chuckled, sounding almost relieved. He then got quiet, his earlier frown returning as he glanced over at Shota. Did you know about this? Shota choked up at the question, and, unable to lie, he gave a small nod. I had my suspicions, Shota admitted, unable to look at Toshinori as he spoke. And then, during the training camp, I saw his new form, and I pieced it together. His new form? The cat features. Toshinori breezed out, as if only now making the connections. That's why they looked so familiar. Oh my stars, I am an idiot! He groaned, shaking his head. We were wondering how long it would take you to figure it out, Shota huffed, a little bit amused, despite everything. Why didn't you tell me? Toshinori asked, sounding betrayed. I wasn't sure how, Shota admitted, with a shake of his head. At first, I really wanted to tell you, but then I kept putting it off, and there just never seemed to be a good time. I understand. It's difficult talking about certain things, Toshinori agreed. I suppose I have no right to be upset. After all, I hid so many things from you for so long. Still, I would have liked for you to tell me about this. They sat in silence for another moment, neither really knowing what to say. But then, Toshinori let out a surprised chuckle, and he lowered his head, shoulders shaking as he seemed to hold in his laughter. Oh God! Now I understand how Broccoli knew about the lunch bentos. He saw me only take one before I gave it to him. He wheezed out, clearly amused. I have to admit that it does explain a lot of his earlier behavior, Shota admitted, shoulders slumping with relief that, at least for now, Toshinori didn't seem mad. But then he remembered something, and he put his head in his hands with a groan. Oh, no. What is it? Toshinori asked, looking up at him in worry. I tried to castrate the poor kid, Shota groaned, burying his face further into his hands. No wonder he ran and hid from me. At that, Toshinori's laughter grew a bit louder. Shota smiled at the sound and raised his head from his hands. That's when he noticed Izuku stir next to them, the machines beeping more rapidly as he started to wake up. They both froze, watching as green eyes blinked open, looking around the room before settling on them. Toshinori's hand was still resting against Izuku's head, and the cat pushed his head against the palm of his hand, closing his eyes again and purring loudly. Hello there, young Izuku, Toshinori said softly, with a smile. At first, Izuku didn't react to his human name, but then it seemed like it finally clicked that he had been called, and he immediately stopped purring as he froze in place. Green eyes filled with panic flitted between Shota and Toshinori before looking down at himself, lifting a paw to his face as if inspecting it. Then, as if realizing his form, his ears fell flat against his head as he gave out a loud whine. He started curling into himself, and his breathing was becoming irregular, and Shota realized with horror that he was having a panic attack. Whoa, hey, it's okay, kid. It's okay. Shota tried to reassure him, but it was to no avail. Suddenly, before either could react, Izuku took off in a flash, yanking out the wires in the process, making both Shota and Toshi wince. The cat then disappeared down under the bed, hiding. Shota was extremely glad that they had the foresight to close the door behind them, knowing that the boy would have undoubtedly tried running outside otherwise. Toshinori and him shared a glance, both looking helpless as they heard heartbreaking whimpers coming from under the bed. They had both seen their little broccoli have a number of panic attacks, though they never understood why. Even after learning about Izuku's true identity, Shota hadn't thought much of the past attacks. But now that he looked back, it was so obvious. After the entrance exam, the USJ, goddammit, even after Midori was attacked in the mall, how did we not realize they were connected? Shota sighed and tried to think of what to do. He got down on the floor, looking at the small ball of fluff and misery. He got a very awful sense of deja vu. Izuku? Shota asked, but the little guy didn't even react. Okay, so reasoning won't work. Taking a deep breath, he tried again. Broccoli? He asked uncertainly. He saw his ears twitch at the name, reacting. Shota glanced at Toshi. I think he might be more cat than human right now, he said carefully. Toshinori frowned at that. What does that mean? I don't know, he admitted with a sigh, scratching his head. Should they call Hound Dog? The counselor had said Izuku was very in tune with being a cat. Maybe he would know what to do? Another whimper had Shota groan and mutter out a "fuck it" before leaning back down and reaching out for the small kitten. He very gently cradled Broccoli in his hand and dragged him out before holding him close to his heart, something he knew usually calmed him down. Can't take listening to those sounds, Shota grumbled, avoiding his husband's gaze as he cradled their student to his chest, a blush on his cheeks. There was just something about hugging their cat student in front of Toshinori that embarrassed him, now that his husband was aware of the truth. Like he would judge him or call him soft or something. In the corner of his eye, he could see Toshinori scooting closer and reaching out a hand. He glanced down and saw that the man had started petting Broccoli, scratching him right behind the ears and under his chin. He heard the man hum slightly, trying to calm the kitten down. Aren't you weirded out by this? Shota asked, bewildered, staring at his love. Toshinori blushed at that. Oh yes, definitely. But how can I not pet him? Look how cute he is, the man admitted with a small smile. Plus, like I said, it does explain a lot. Especially when he would occasionally call me Dad, even before we decided to foster him. I guess I'm a bit happy finally knowing he's been safe at home with us and not out on the streets or abused like we feared. Shota felt his heart squeeze as he listened to the man speak. You're wonderful. You know that? He whispered, making Toshinori blush. He should have known his husband wouldn't care. After all, this was Toshinori. Just saying how I see it, Toshinori answered with a smile. But then he looked sad. I wonder why he never told us, though. Shota just hummed at that, not really answering. They sat there for a while, neither moving or saying anything. Shota eventually looked down, and he felt his heart melt at the sight of the kitten cuddled up against him. His small paws were clutching at his uniform, and his head was leaning against his chest. His fur was still a bit ruffled after his panic attack, and Shota gently started cradling his fingers through the fur, brushing it. Broccoli started purring contently and let out a fond huff at the sound. Hey, Toshi. Before Shota could say anything else, Broccoli started to stir, but it wasn't peaceful like before. This time, he looked like he was in pain, and he let out a quiet whine. Then, before either of them could react, there was suddenly a large cloud of smoke surrounding them. As the weight of him increased remarkably, Shota lost his balance and fell back against the floor with an oof. He then heard Toshinori ask if he's okay, and he just grunted in response, before sitting up and rubbing his head. He frowned and saw that Izuku was back to being human again, fully dressed in his hero costume, and he was still sleeping with Shota's uniform clutched in scarred, small hands. Huh. So that's where his hero uniform went. Shota mumbled absent-mindedly, moving the kid so he could sit more comfortably. He frowned down at the kid and sighed. Let's move him to the bed. He probably needs to sleep if he didn't even stir from that. After lifting Midoriya into the bed, he pressed the button on the side of it and explained to the nurse what had happened. The nurse was a bit surprised to find the previously sleeping cat now being a human, but she dutifully reconnected all the IVs and looked the kid over. Seeing how he was fine and asleep, Shota and Toshinori quietly left the room to check on the rest of their students. They walked in silence, and after glancing over at his husband, he saw him looking deep in thought, a small frown on his face as he stared straight ahead. He wondered what he was thinking. Toshinori's point of view. Toshinori hadn't been expecting this at all. Young Izuku was actually their little broccoli? How was he supposed to have known that? But then again, looking back, it did make a lot of sense. He wasn't sure how he was supposed to feel about all of this. One would expect him to perhaps be angry for being kept in the dark, but he just couldn't find it in himself to be mad about it. Not when he himself had kept so many secrets from his loved ones. Besides, it wasn't like Izuku had done anything bad. He'd lived with them far longer than they'd known him as a human, and while Toshinori would have loved to have known the cat was actually a human child, he couldn't blame the kid for staying quiet for so long. Still, he mourned all the years they could have spent together as a family. How much of Izuku growing up had they missed because the kid felt the need to hide from them? Toshinori shook his head. He couldn't think like that. After all, Izuku had been with them all this time. He had been safe at home with them, not alone on the streets or abused at home, which was a relief. And yet, he had been neglected, hadn't he? All these years living under their roof, and they had no idea that the kid was even there. It hurt Toshinori to think about what could have been, had they known he was a human. All the missed moments of tucking him into bed, or helping him with his homework. All the time they'd lost. Are you okay? Shota asked, startling Toshinori out of his thoughts. They were seated inside of the hospital's cafeteria, eating lunch together while they waited for news of Izuku or Eri waking up. I am fine, Toshinori sighed. Just thinking. About Izuku? Shota guessed correctly. Yes. I still cannot believe he was broccoli all this time. I'm really sorry about not telling you, Shota told him again, looking awfully guilty. It is all right. I do not blame you, Toshinori told him softly. He really didn't blame his husband for the secrecy. Still, I cannot help but wonder what our lives would have been like had he told us. It definitely would have made the whole fostering process easier, Shota huffed as he leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. Was that why you hesitated about taking him in after all this time? Because you knew the truth about his quirk? Toshinori asks him carefully. Yeah, I I wasn't sure we should take him in before you knew the truth, Shota answered, looking away with a guilty frown. Toshinori gave him a small smile at that. I see, he said, before pausing and letting out a deep sigh. I really do not mind. It actually makes me rather happy to know they are the same person. It just makes a lot of sense. You've always been way too accepting, Shota teased. Perhaps, Toshinori agreed with a chuckle, but I stand by what I said. Him being broccoli does not change anything. He is still our kid. So, do you still want to go through with the adoption? Shota asked him quietly. Of course! Toshinori answered without hesitation. After all, he's been our kid for years now. Why not make it official? Again, you're way too accepting. Shota snorted, a hand reaching out to grab Toshinori's own. But yeah, I like that too. Before Toshinori could answer, Shota's phone suddenly rang, and he got up to answer. They need me back at Aries' room to answer some questions, Shota told him with a sigh. Will you be alright on your own? I will be fine, Toshinori told him with a smile. You go look after Eri. Shota gave him a small smile before he headed off. Toshinori watched him go, only letting his smile drop once his husband was out of sight. As soon as he did, he let out a deep sigh and laid his head on the table. It was true he didn't blame either of them, and he wasn't mad, but this was still a bit too much for him to handle. He felt tired. Shota's point of view. Shota hurried to Eri's room as soon as he heard the girl had shown signs of waking up. But it was just a false alarm. When he arrived, the girl was still fast asleep. With nothing else to do, Shota wandered the hallways until he arrived back at his and Izuku's room. He heard noises from inside, and he cautiously opened the door and peeked into the room. As soon as he did, he felt his heart break, because there, on the bed, sat Izuku, crying his heart out. Shota quickly set off a short text to his husband, letting him know the kid was awake, before he gently knocked on the door. Izuku startled, wide eyes turning to look at Shota, and as soon as he saw who it was, he quickly turned away and began wiping away his tears, looking embarrassed as he did. Hey, kid, Shota said softly as he stepped inside the room. How are you holding up? I'm fine, Izuku sniffled, wiping away his tears. You don't look fine, Shota huffed. It's just Toshi knows now, and I'm so scared he will hate me, and maybe he won't want me as his successor anymore. Izuku sobbed. He doesn't hate you, Shota told him firmly, as he sat down on the bed next to the kid, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. He's not even mad at you, I promise. Before either one could say anything else, the door suddenly flew open, startling both of them. I am here! How is... Toshinori panted, leaning against the door. His eyes landed on Izuku, and his face fell. Oh, my boy, he sighed, walking in and closing the door. I'm so sorry, Izuku sobbed, his whole body trembling violently as he pulled his knees up to his chest and buried his face in his arms. Toshinori wasted no time in rushing over, immediately pulling Midoriya into a hug and comforting him. I'm sorry, I never meant to fly. I never meant to drag out for so long or take your quirk. I wanted to stay with you. You were both so kind and safe. I didn't want to go back. Shota felt part of his heart break at the words. It's okay, kid. We're here. No one is throwing you out. We're not leaving you. It's gonna be okay. He reassured him gently, pulling him against his side with one arm, Toshinori sitting on his other side. After what felt like an eternity, the boy quieted down. Izuku sniffled before leaning his head against Shota's shoulder. He looked a mess, with tear streaks on his cheeks and red eyes from crying. Thanks, the kid mumbled, looking embarrassed as he ducked his head. Any time, my boy, Toshinori answered softly, giving their kid a watery smile as he wrapped an arm around both Izuku and Shota. Izuku suddenly flinched, and they both backed off immediately, afraid they had done something wrong. Izuku, what's wrong? Are you hurt? Shota asked seriously. No, I'm okay. Just my quirk, he explained sheepishly before closing his eyes and taking a deep breath. In the blink of an eye, Izuku's cat features appeared as he went back to his hybrid form, and as soon as he did, he let out a deep sigh of relief. Better? Better? Toshinori asked with a smile, going right back to hugging the boy close. Better, Izuku confirmed, blushing in embarrassment, even as he leaned into the touch. Before anyone could say anything else, there was an urgent knock on the door, startling all of them. The door then swung open, revealing one of the doctors in care of Eri. She's awake! Author's notes. Oh boy, there we go! How was it? I'm sorry it was so short. I did the best I could. I just wanted to get it out since it's been so long. I have no idea when the next chapter is going to be out, but I'm going to try and get back into writing again because it's something that I've really missed. As always, thank you everyone for your continued patience, comments, and support. I literally couldn't have done this without you. All your comments give me life. Hope you all have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world. And that's a wrap on chapter 50. Okay, how do I want to tackle this outro? Well, I think it's like an amazing unplanned coincidence that Texiliaz happened to post chapter 50 the day I was reading chapter 48 and 49, so now I can say we are officially caught up, and I will be reading new chapters as they release. Thank you, Texiliaz. You are amazing. Everybody, go into the description right now, click the link to Texiliaz's fic, and leave a comment saying, Texiliaz, we love you. Okay? Go do that. Go show Texiliaz some love, because Texiliaz fucking deserves it. This is amazing. This is a masterpiece, a work of art. It's gotten me like 1,000 subscribers, so that just shows how good it is. 1,000 subscribers in a month for Texiliaz's work of art. Go show Texiliaz some love. Anyway, please leave me a comment. I love reading your comments. They make me so happy. Please leave me specifically hey comments, and I'll shout ya in the next video. That being said, shout outs to Honeybee VT8TJ. Thank you for your hate comment. Hate comment, because you said hate comment twice. Anyway, my thoughts on this fic. I had to pause after Shota said I tried to circumcise a kid. I had to pause because I broke down laughing, and I laughed for like a good 10 minutes. That was so hilarious. Yeah, so unfiltered reactions. This chapter is amazing. I loved it so much. Like, oh my god, and I'm so excited. Next chapter is gonna be Eri, and I want Izuku and Eri to interact, and I want them to be siblings. That would be so cute! I know there's a viewer who doesn't want that, and, I don't know what Texiliaz has planned, so may one of us win! Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you the next time. Bye-bye, pups!